Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 993. I am Steven in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Kyle in Los Angeles.
Kyle is a last-minute replacement for Chris, who's under the weather. But thank you, Kyle, for having no life and being able to join us.
Anytime.
That's such
Just
a
like
short notice.
Just like us.
I went out of my way to do nothing this Christmas season, so I'm very happy to be available.
Lovely. This is the definition of nothing, yes.
Oh, yes.
It's nice, isn't it? It's
it's great. I don't know the last time I've done nothing. That's just a weird thing to say. I'm always like, I should be doing something, even if I don't do it. But not this time. I got everything done.
Kind of handy, isn't it? So yeah. Anyway, the big episode today. We'll be reviewing Joy to the World, the Doctor Who Christmas special, of course, the season 2 teaser that came after it, and in diminishing numbers since only Warren and I saw the War Games in color. We'll talk about that, and Kyle didn't see that, and I'm the only person who saw the Doctor Who Proms, so I'll mention that briefly, as well as other news, and even a little bit of mention of stats by popular demand from Warren. And Warren actually said,
I said nothing of the sort.
Can we talk about that?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we'll have to fact check that, whether that was actually true. That doesn't sound very Warren-y.
I didn't.
We're if we also refer to stuff that we're watching, those of you on the podcast feed, this is a live stream today. We do live stream episode reviews, so that's what this is. But Unleashed. Somebody even mentioned in the comments. I watched Unleashed. I watched the behind the scenes.
I did that too. Yeah,
I watched everything. I watched so much Doctor Who stuff in the past little while. But before we get to that, though, because Kyle, you got some of this stuff too.
Yes.
But just came out in North America and just arrived. The 60th anniversary specials on Blu-ray, the 3 Tenet specials came out on Blu-ray 1 year to the day that they broadcast on Disney.
Isn't that the rule that they have to do anything, not just Doctor Who?
Steve Manfred is who's in the chat today.
Yes,
I believe
he would know.
He told us that, so I'm trusting him on this. And Kyle, you got that too. And then also, finally, the Blake 7 Blu-ray set came out here.
Yes,
in North America. And Kyle, you're already a fan of the show, having never seen it before.
Yeah, so I think I've talked to Steven about this, but I had never seen Blake 7, and then they put it on BritBox, and I still never watched it, and I was just sort of like, I'd read about it in books, and I know you all really liked it and stuff like that, but I was just like, I mean, come on. And then I was like, it just seems like goofy to me and stuff like that. I also am not a particular fan of Terry Nation, so I was sort of like, whatever. And so then it went on huge, like as soon as it came out, like released, it was on huge sale on Amazon. I mean, sorry, other Blu-ray buyers are available.
Right.
But it was very inexpensive. So I was like, I'll get it. And so I've only watched 4 episodes so far, and I bloody love it. It's so good.
Chris Boucher.
It's
pretty much
so
puts
good.
gold in everybody's mouths.
It's
all the time.
beautiful. Like it is a beautifully shot show on tape. I was very surprised at how nice it looks.
Anything Vila says is absolute gold as far as I'm concerned.
I will warn you, Kyle, that you said you've watched the first 4 episodes. Is very telling, because episode 5 is a bit ropey on spot. So I will warn you. Okay, that's the web. It's the web. Yeah. It's the one that always makes me go, maybe I won't watch all these episodes.
It's the censorites.
But 6 is great. 6 is great. The one after it is superb. So,
and when season 2 comes out, you get to see Gambit, the campiest thing ever committed to videotape.
Thing ever.
Yeah, but that's the one that Robert Holmes wrote, wasn't it?
It is. Yeah, he wrote
inexplicably
2 or 3 of them. Yeah. So
that's one of the ones he wrote.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like I know it's only 4 seasons, and I'm like, I know a lot of the like the bits of it that like Blake is gone. For most of
spoilers for everyone who's never. That's fine now.
Get out of here.
Right.
But I'm also like, if I were to like, let me just put this out there. If I were to stop after the 2nd season, does it feel like that could be the end, or do I?
No, it actually gets better. I think it gets better. Actually,
ending is legend. The actual ending is, which I've only seen the first season and some of the second to myself. I keep meaning to watch more, and I will because I bought the Blu-ray set.
Sure.
But season 4, the ending is legendary and legendarily controversial amongst British nerds of a certain age.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything else about it, but
so you're. I'm glad you're on board. I'm glad you're on board, Kyle.
I mean, how could I not be? Honestly, like
Right.
it's
up your street, as they say.
It's up my street. It's the Dirty Dozen in space. Like I like all the
Mm-hmm.
characters already. I know that Erica is a huge fan of Avon. I think most people are, but
Everyone
already
is.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a V-list myself.
Yeah.
V-list.
V-list.
Yeah, I'm into it. I think it's fun. I've yet to even see Jacqueline Pierce. She hasn't shown up yet. So
No, he hasn't
she's
shown up
awesome.
yet. Yeah.
She's so cool.
But you'll know when you see her.
Very
She'll be on screen.
having seen her previously. Yes, of course.
You'll
Oh,
recognize
that's her. All right. Carry
Oh,
on.
hey, it's that person who's on the box cover.
Yeah. Another thing that neither of you know about, so forgive me for a little bit to talk about this, but I ordered this like a month and a while ago. The Tripod's All for Nothing book from the UK, Amazon.uk. I think I paid more for shipping than the actual book. And then it was stuck in like customs for like literally a month. Showed up on Christmas Eve. I was worried that it was going to be lost. I bought this sight unseen based on recommendations from people like Jonathan Helm, Making Blake 7 on Twitter. And I literally opened up like 2 pages, go, okay, this book's for me. And then I opened up a third right before recording.
I witnessed this.
And I know it's the book for me because there's lots of pictures in it, which is obviously something that I like.
Yeah.
But this was random page. People who are on the live stream will know what I'm talking about. There is a video location shooting 101. There's a picture of the OB production bus. There is a diagram of the OB production van in this book.
Steven,
wow.
This is the universe telling you have to get an RV. Sorry, Erica, in advance. And you have to make an OB production van.
Yeah.
And people ask you what you're doing. Well, I'm shooting tripods, duh.
Yeah. So anyway, Tripods All for Nothing, possibly already. I've seen 3 pages. And it might be the best book ever written. So there is my,
according to you,
there is my praise for that book. Well done, Chris Jones. They are available at various UK bookshops
for an extraordinary price, apparently.
Yeah, well, it wasn't cheap, and I don't care. It's worth it. I'm glad I bought it. So
yeah, you
anyway.
won't shut up about that show. You love that show.
I love
I've
that
not
show.
seen the Tripods, but
I know you don't.
Erica's response.
Well, it's not that I don't want to.
Warren.
It's just you know, it's hard to find a lot of times.
It's very hard to find, and it's I'm mostly obsessed with it because of OB video and effects and stories, but the children actors are just children actors kind of thing. So that's kind of brings it down.
They have been doing a really good job lately of putting British like kind of genre TV stuff out on Blu-ray in various places. Like there's a few there's a company called Severin which puts out mostly like cult kind of horror movies and stuff like that. But they put out 2 full horror box sets, and they have a bunch of like Penda's Fen and Robin Redbreast, which were these like BBC TV or ITV. One of them might have been ITV, but productions because they were full horror based, and I find that stuff really interesting. So
you do.
I do, but also you know just British
fun,
TV
though.
in general.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's fun. Yeah.
I'm going to refer to you as the Wicker Man from now on.
Okay.
We watched a
Don't burn me.
We'll get to Doctor Who instantly, people. Don't worry. But we watched a Hallmark movie about like people trapped in this Irish village. Essentially, like they went there, they just stayed, and I thought like this is like teetering to be going one way towards a Christmas movie or Wicker Man. It's either or at this point.
Or 73 yards.
Yeah, it's a flip of the coin at this point. Anyway, thank you for putting up with us at our fun banter.
Nonsense.
Before we get like 12 minutes into this episode, before we finally talk about actually Doctor Who, we're Joy to the World, the Doctor Who Christmas special, starring Ncuti Gatwa and Nicola Coughlan, and written by Steven Moffat, who makes his return to Doctor Who once again, his final time in Doctor Who. I think he's coming back.
I doubt it.
Don't you believe it?
Don't you believe it for a second? Before I just want to point out that these poster art, some of them had Joy to the Worlds, and we thought, oh, what could this mean? Or is it just a typo? And Yeah, I'm starting to lead towards typo. I feel like this is like, I don't understand why it was called Joy to the World. It wasn't mentioned anywhere in the episode. The episode itself was called Joy to the World, so I don't know what the deal is.
That to me feels like Disney Plus was like, well, it's science fiction, right? It's got to be multiple worlds, right?
Yeah,
probably.
People aren't going to watch it if it's just one world.
I don't even think they put that level of thought into it. I think somebody screwed up and they just kind of ran with it. Or they keep not changing. You know, when you have a stupid document that refuses to be edited, even though everybody's edited it, that might be what this is.
Yeah, double down. It's not a mistake. We meant to do that. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll go with the regulars first, if you don't mind, Kyle. Warren, what's your immediate reaction to this here Doctor Who? Okay.
Yeah. I only saw it once, and I was dealing with some, I had family here, so I was kind of a little distracted, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But I think it's middling Moffat, which is still not bad. I liked it fine enough, I guess is the best, but I had nothing against it. I definitely liked, and you're probably going to hear a lot more of this, my favorite part is still the sort of side mission where he's in the hotel. That was just the most fun of the whole thing. I kind of wanted that to be the whole thing. And also, I find it kind of unfair that Joy gets sidelined. I guess it makes sense given the plot.
Yeah.
But she gets sidelined, and then it makes sense with all the timey-wiminess, which is it's as usual, very well constructed by Moffat and works out great and is endlessly, even though you know it's coming, it's endlessly rewarding to see that kind of stuff. So that was fun. It looks great. Like the Time Hotel is amazing. It's a great idea.
Yep.
I'm just going to admit outright that I'm an idiot because I did not make the Bethlehem connection until they said year one, or maybe slightly before that. Yeah. I did not see it. I did see
when I saw the camels. That's when I saw it. If
she's a star, as the people were getting star disintegrated or whatever, I was like, they're somehow going to be back in business because this is Moffat and that's how he does things. But yeah, a solid effort by Mr. Moffat. Let's put it that way. A good innings, if you will. One thing I will have a gripe about, and he's done it before, and he's not the only one to do it, but where the Doctor has to make you angry to get you broken out of the pattern, and I'm just like, that just comes off as so manipulative and weird, and it is a real tone shift that doesn't seem to work to me. From all this fun japery, and all of a sudden he's just being mean, and he's only ever mean as far as I can remember in Moffat stories. That and Boom, he's a little like that as well. So is it just a Moffat thing? Because other people, and RTD surely must have done this at some point.
Well, all right. What about you, Kyle? What are your initial reactions towards Joy to the World?
Yeah, pretty similar to what Warren said. I think it's a really fun setup. What with the Time Hotel and everything like that, I think it's a neat idea. I am a sucker always for the Doctor stuck someplace for a period of time.
Me too.
And yeah, I think, and I said this kind of in our just general group chat earlier, but like to me, the stuff with Anita when he's stuck in the hotel working for a whole year is so good and so refreshing and so like fun and heartfelt and everything like that, that when he gets back to the main plot, I just don't care that much anymore. It's back to just zaniness, and I'm like, oh no, you've had your emotional arc already. And I think that, like, because then from then on, it's like he's got to there's the whole thing with the dinosaur and all this stuff, and Moffat does the thing that Moffat does, which is that, oh, there's characters we like and then they die, and then oh no, they're holograms again, which like you
Moffat
said,
loves
Lauren,
that.
Boom, but he loves that stuff. I was like, okay, this isn't as fun. And also, like, Joy just as a character just gets completely shortchanged. And I think I would much rather have just seen more Anita. And I simply didn't care that she became a star at the end. I was just like, why? Okay, whatever.
And
like,
Nicole Coughlan is good as her.
She's fine. But she's great.
But she's kind of, because they've got that bit that I like a lot in the middle, it gives her less time to work with it. Like, you could have developed more about her to make it have more impact, and it doesn't. So Anita has more impact, because you've had that time to hang out with her, right?
Yeah. I think just the Anita section, or like, the setup with the door and everything like that, would have been like an amazing Doctor Who short film, because what is it, like 15 minutes or something like that?
So
like
it's
20
really
minutes.
Good. It's a long time.
20 minutes,
actually. Yeah.
It's a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was fine. Like, I kind of the Church on Ruby Road was, I'd say, more exciting just overall, because obviously it was a new Doctor and a new companion and all this stuff. But I think that one veers more into stupid, whereas I think that there's nothing particularly stupid about Joy to the World.
No,
but it all fits together and works. I just think, especially after having just, as I'm sure a lot of people did, rewatched a lot of the Moffat Christmas specials leading up to Christmas. This was one of his weaker ones.
But it's still not
as
bad.
A Christmas special.
Yeah.
It's still not bad. Like his, and I wonder if that's why RTD bowed to him to write it, because overall Moffat wrote way better Christmas specials than RTD did.
I think so too.
So yeah. But
I mean, he also maybe wrote better episodes, but the opinions on that might differ.
That's not, no, I've said it before. I'll say it again. They've both done some amazing ones, and they both done some stinkers, and they both done some middling ones. Just general too. Like all. It was
a real. And I think after the full season that we just started, series or whatever you want to call it, season 1, which was very half and half for me. Like I liked to loved 4 of the episodes and disliked to outright thought was terrible 4 of the episodes, and that's not a good batting average. So
strikeouts or home runs are not the way you want to play baseball, or how you want to run a season of Doctor Who. Yeah.
No. One would think not, except that's the way they play baseball nowadays.
Yeah, I know. That was a direct
that's
comment.
the movie business too, actually.
That too, actually. Yep.
Strikeout, home run, or walk.
Nothing in the middle.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I basically thought. I actually have in a moment there's a quote that Ty Gooden did an interview with both Davis and Moffat, and there's a quote about the Anita section if you'd like me to read it at some point. But Stephen, why don't you tell us what you thought first?
We'll get there. I'm very intrigued to hear this. Of course, Kyle at nerdist.com will be providing this. I liked it. I'm always wary of Christmas specials because I know going in that it's intended to be more for a casual viewing audience, and also on most occasions, it's going to be the first episode in months and the last episode in months. So it's like, better enjoy this for what it is, because we're not going to see any more for a little while. So that always kind of like taints it going in for me. I don't know. But I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like Steven Moffat's writing. That's not a controversial thing for me to say, because I've always said
or any of us.
No, I think we're all, if we're to choose a modern Who showrunner, it's probably Steven Moffat who's getting the first place award amongst the 3 of us, and Chris too if he was here. But no, I'm so curious, and this may be already the time for that quote there, Kyle, because when you hear Russell T Davies saying because they're batting about, Russell T Davies said, "I don't have a clue what to do about this Christmas special." Steven Moffat, you seem to know Doctor Who. Can you come in and write this Christmas special? Didn't even have an idea. They just sort of bandied some ideas about, and then
some emails back and forth.
Yeah, they landed on the Time Hotel, and then he said like the first draft, like after the first draft, Anita had like 10 lines in it. My guess is it was the scene probably where she brings the towels in and probably leaves. That's probably it for first draft Anita. And then they liked her so much that they just kept adding scenes. And I'm wondering if that whole subplot of spending a year with Anita was like a second draft onwards sort of thing. If that's the case, was this episode originally like, 43 minutes long or something like that? And maybe they needed an extra thing to actually do with that. Otherwise it would feel kind of slight. I don't know. Did they chop out stuff with Joy's, arc to accommodate for that? I'm not too sure.
It was sort of a mix because obviously, like, they were a huge fan of the actress Steph Wally or Whaley. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
First TV role.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is madness. She was really good.
Absolutely kills it.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of for budgetary reasons. I'll read this.
Oh yeah. Okay, here we go.
A Moffat quote. Anita's an interesting example because she was barely in the first draft. The final episode doesn't change a whole lot except for that sequence, which used to be a sort of globe-trotting sequence as the Doctor looks for a hotel with an access to the Time Hotel. We couldn't afford it and couldn't fit it into the schedule. So he ends up staying at the Sandringham Hotel as a handyman. And I'm glad that happened because we get this very close, very warm relationship with Anita for a year in which the Doctor isn't doing anything. I mean, he's been stuck in one place before, but usually because fighting a war or diffusing a robot or something. Here he's just unblocking toilets and he actually quite likes it. He'd never stay, but he likes it.
Is this thing harmed? Yeah. That's a great line.
Yeah.
From the Doctor's perspective, he knows Joy for a very short time and Anita for a year. It's a very different shape of story from his point of view. It's a miracle he even remembers Joy's name by the time he gets back to the hotel. It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. That relationship I love. In between two moments, he has a whole little life, which I just think is a really nice, way to say that. And because they were kind of rewriting it on the fly and they liked Steph DeWhaley so much, they just kept enlarging her part. So like there were more people. I won't read the rest of what he said, but there were other people that he interacted with throughout the year. And then it was just sort of like, what if he just talked to her? Like, it's this little hotel that apparently doesn't have a ton of people staying in it all the time. And these two people would just spend a lot of time together and all that stuff with them having their weekly, it's whatever she says, like, this is my favorite day of the week or whatever.
Chair day.
Chair night. Chair night. Yeah. It's like, that is something that comes out of, I want to see what happens with these two people. And we have this one set basically that we're using over and over again.
Now,
so
speaking
I
of
love that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love stuff like that where it's budget constraints lead to thinking outside the box, which leads to giving an actor a huge, bump in what they're doing just because it's like, well, here's somebody we already have. We don't have to cast other people. Yeah. And then they end up being so good that it makes the entire episode. To the point where the actual big name guest star, I think, does get short shrifted because of that, because Anita's the one we spend the most time with first. And Joy just seems like a Doctor Who character, and Anita seems like a real person, I think.
More change happens in that bit, too, with the two of them. I was just going to say, with the three of us, all three of us have stayed in London. How far out from proper London is this place? Because that's a big room for London.
What I like is when Anita looks out of the window once, and you can see the Wotan Tower, the post office tower. Is right
I did not notice that.
Yeah, I sure noticed that.
Now, I have a question. Must he be obeyed or no?
Yes, he must be, actually. It's funny you mentioned that.
He took me over about 10 years ago.
Wotan must
remember.
be obeyed.
I watch that every few months just because I find it funny.
You're welcome. Me, I don't. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. That was great, wasn't it?
I had a great time with that, yeah.
Yeah. That's our opening for our 2016 live show for what Kyle was talking about. You're right, Kyle. I said this a while ago. I never watched a show all about Agatha, so much so that I don't even know the name of the show.
Agatha, nobody has watched that show. It doesn't exist.
Agatha all along. About how it's like this show that it just focuses on the main cast of characters and they go through various situations. And I feel like TV shows should do that. That is what they're best at, focusing on characters. Because they don't have the budget to do the big budget things that we see in movies. And I think Doctor Who, far too often, in my opinion, in the modern era, tries to go for the big, tries to go for the home run, the dramatic home run. But I think, especially this past season, I think it lost out. I think it missed out on moments like we had with Anita. Two characters in a hotel for a year, and it's great. It's the character moments that we watch Doctor Who for, I think, and when all is said and done, it's what people are talking about. We don't go, oh, do you remember that time when an army of CG Daleks flew through space? No, we don't. We talk about Doctor Who and Clara talking in the TARDIS. Do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would be enough?
Heaven Sent is the perfect
Heaven
example
Sent. Yeah. Those are the moments that we actually remember when it comes to Doctor Who, what we take with us for years afterwards.
But if you don't have the big stuff in there as well, it does take away from it. It draws it down eventually. You know what I mean?
The whole show can't be that. Maybe.
Yeah. It has to feel special, and that's why it does feel special, because it's not always the case.
It's always the case. But I love that aspect of it. I do want to point out one little thing while I'm thinking of it is when the Doctor's collecting little miniature police boxes and it has them on display everywhere. I didn't think they're online. There's lots of them around for some reason. And I noticed one, and I thought one looked familiar. And then upon second viewing, I confirmed it. But when I can't remember which UK trip it was, Warren, the one that we went on, or the one that
2015.
Was it 2015 or 2017 that I got this? But a little tin of mints came in a police box that is the exact type that is on the doctor's in his room there. So now, I now have another screen accurate prop thanks to mints that I bought.
I saw that
10 years
sort
ago.
of row, and I said out loud, yes, a hint of Daypole. And I had to explain what Daypole was to my sister who was watching with me.
Yeah, look at this. I bought this weird
And then she was
5-sided
no more
console.
interested afterwards. Yeah.
One other thing that, because we're talking about it's in the same storyline, but the music playing on the radio for about 10 seconds when they're staring up looking at in the summer, not the fireworks scene. I thought for a second, is that? And then on second watch, it's Lady by Fela Kuti, who is one of my favorite Afro-funk musicians from the 1970s. Okay. And I love that song, and I thought that sounds like Fela Kuti in Doctor Who. And it was. So there we go. One of my favorite music from the 1970s, of which there's a lot, somehow made it into Doctor Who. I don't know whose choice it was to add Fela Kuti to Doctor Who, but I commend them for doing that.
Well, Ty only had 15 minutes with the 2 gig, so we didn't get as far down as that. But
pretty sure that in the
That's what we're here for, to drill down for the minutia.
In the script on a cheap AM radio, Fela Kuti is playing. On the radio.
It could be one of Steven Moffat's or RTD's favorites for all we know.
I don't think so.
Well, who was the director?
Alex Sinjav Pillai, who I think has directed a few Midsummer Murders before this, which is why I know the name. A few people have directed Midsummer Murders after Doctor Who, but this is the first person to direct before. Midsummer Murders is another great show to watch for spotting Doctor Who actors. This is why I know so much.
Here's where my minutia comes in Unleash. They're interviewing the director, and he's got what appears to be Adobe Premiere behind him. I'm like, what are they doing? What is that?
That was cool. And they're talking about Hollywooding. I've never heard the term Hollywooding as a verb before, but it's like when they were shooting
Texas Switch, more or less.
It's kind of like that, where they were shooting a scene with one briefcase that was just like the empty case, and they would quickly swap it out. The camera's still rolling, and then it's a second case which opens up and has stuff in it, and then he closes it, and they swap it out, and they come back in and pick up the scene a little bit before for editing purposes, and it's the one with the little clock that sort of pops up on it. And they cover this on Doctor Who Unleashed, and I thought it was kind of cool. I've never heard it called Hollywooding before. So that's a new phrase for me. Kyle, have you ever heard the term Hollywooding something?
No, because I think in Hollywood they just call it sparkling props.
Ussing. They say ussing.
Yeah.
You know, let's do the thing that we do. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's just called doing stuff. Like, I think it's funny that British television's like having multiple props that do different things depending on the shot. Now that's real Hollywood stuff.
I mean, don't forget, this is the guys who are doing multicam. How could you possibly Hollywood? I guess you could theoretically.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated, but
very much. Yeah. It's very funny. Yeah. Texas Switch. Yeah. Erica says in the chat, that's when like a stunt person jumps behind a thing and then the real actor stands up behind, like as though it were that same person. That's a Texas Switch. So they're doing the Texas Switch with the props, which is very funny.
Ish, kind of. I don't think they. Yeah, I think.
But they are cutting. So.
Yeah, it's being.
People are mentioning in the chat that, and they're right. The whole thing with Ruby Sunday just shoehorned in there, which makes sense because she's going to be back in the next season probably.
Right.
And going, oh hello, Mom, and I instantly thought, and I'm certainly not alone in this. Going, well, which one? To quote David Tennant, well, which one? Which one is it?
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that I think she was with her adopted mom in her house, based on the architecture, I think it's probably her birth mom. You remember her birth mom?
I would assume so.
That memorable woman that they made such a big deal out of and told you it was going to be a big deal, and then it turned out it was just something.
Justice for Mom Prime.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why Ruby Sunday was in that episode?
Sure.
You ready? Because Russell T. Davis has this little nugget of wisdom for you.
All right.
We knew she's coming back, so she was booked and under contract.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, why not throw it in? Sure, I guess, but
you know what? It keeps the tie there, knowing no pun intended with Ty Gooden, but keeps that there, knowing that she's going to be in season 2 because she's in the trailer very briefly, and I think it was a very brief teaser. We'll talk about after this, but so I understand it. For some reason, I half expected it to be like the doctor phoning her or something like that. Like, oh, here we go. But no.
Matt Smith making a series of calls.
Yeah, that's true.
Continuing through Christmas specials.
Yeah.
Please believe it's me. And she's like, what?
Who the hell are you? Go away.
I never even met you, you weird guy.
I have to say, going back to what you were talking about, Warren, with the Doctor being sort of cold-hearted.
It just seems out of nowhere.
I tell you what, though.
Yeah.
I kind of like that angle. I kind of like it when the Doctor's a little bit dangerous. And I think
I love
sometimes...
shouting at people.
Yeah. No,
I mean, you got to show he's alien and there's more to him. I get all that, but it's still a little off-putting to me personally.
I don't know.
It's also he doesn't know her that well, and he's like, I hate to say it, he's reading her to filth at that moment, and that's it felt really mean, untoward, unduly mean.
I didn't like it when Tom Baker did it to Sarah in Ark in Space. Mm-hmm. So when I see it again, I'm like, this whole thing again. I get why you're doing it. It's kind of a shortcut in a way too. I get why you're doing it, but it's just a little, personally, like I said, off-putting. So
he does apologize twice.
Well,
after
yeah, of
the
course.
Fact.
But
I do like that. There are lots of great lines in this, but I do like the line that he says, like, you probably didn't like that I had to do that to save your life. Well, there is a bad way to save anyone's life, which is what I kind of liked as well. Little lines like that.
It's not quite gaslighting, but it's like down the street,
right? Yeah.
So
I don't know.
She forgives him real fast too. That was the other part. I was like,
conveniently fast.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and that's also kind of like at the end of the episode where she's like becoming a star. Says you're a really nice person. I think you probably have only known him for about 4.5 minutes screen time at this point, because of the Anita thing. They're not known to each other. They were almost eaten by a dinosaur, and that's about the sum total of their.
It's real time, everyone. Their entire interaction is what we see on television. So there is no 7 hours later kind of thing. There's no amount of that. So it's like, you're a really nice person, guy who yelled at me, who I met a duplicate of 5 seconds ago. Like, it's just a weird shorthand that I think only somebody like a Moffat could do, because he's like working with stuff he's written a million times. And I don't know, that kind of stuff just kind of didn't work for me, because it's like, you don't know her. And more importantly, she doesn't know you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work.
And also, she is insanely charismatic as per usual through the rest of it, right? So it just kind of really is at odds with that, I guess. Not that he shouldn't do different stuff. But.
No. We do have some Moffat tropes in there, like the Avatar being a character who has died, and now they're speaking from the dead as the Avatar, which has been done a few times. It's a good way.
Has the memories.
It still has the memories for some reason. Yeah, very very convenient indeed. It was kind of weird actually that Joy sort of was the one to point out that you're buzzing, your sonic screwdriver is, because I feel like the Doctor would sort of notice that, but without that, Joy is doing nothing in that scene, because she's just she's the one that actually takes it out and puts it up so Joel Fry's character can talk to her. But it sounds like I'm dumping on this episode a little bit, but I really did like it. I did like it.
I liked it too.
I did enjoy it. Yeah.
I think the problem with it is, if there is such a problem, is that they already had Nicola Coughlan under contract, and she's your big guest star. Right. And it was too late to rework it, because she becomes extraneous because of the Anita section. And she never gets the ending, her character's ending works if he spends more time with her, if we spend more time with her. It resonates a lot more, but it feels like he had all that stuff. There was a year's worth of a 5-minute montage of him trying to go to different hotels, and then it was just going to be the rest of her stuff. But then I didn't, you know what I mean? They changed stuff to make other stuff work, but then couldn't change the end because you already had this actor. I think probably you could have taken her out and had it just been a time hotel with this star thing somewhere, and he has to still go, it could just be all the people who are working at this hotel.
It is nicer to have a central point for the whole thing, and a guest star, because it's Christmas and all that. So
so I think it's sort of it's a double-edged sword there. It's sort of it's a poison chalice. I'll use that phrase because
right.
His Christmas specials are so good, and he's so good at writing little moments like that that he kind of ruined the rest of the episode for himself. Or for the production. I'm not saying that people didn't like it. I'm just telling you what I think. I think it's a messy script, at the end because it doesn't feel like it fits the rest of the episode.
It does match with RTD typical messiness though. So there's that.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. There is.
And also, they're cool bits like using not just the Orient Express, but a bunch of other stuff, and all that kind of chaining together is kind of cool. I don't think you should do it more than once, but it is interesting to have them done that.
I like that it's a fun thing, but since you've established what the Time Hotel can do, getting a rope and a hook thing from 1953 Mount Everest and attaching it throughout that, it works, especially the shot where they see the rope go through. Like, you don't really have to imagine thinking, you know what, it doesn't make sense in a real world, but in a Time Hotel it does.
It's still kind of fun,
and it's fun, and I could totally believe it. It doesn't feel like, towing a giant dog creature around the universe, tearing time fabric. There's a little more.
What's that reference to? I don't know what you're talking about.
That never happened. I believe that's called Rise of Skywalker. The other thing that I've never heard of.
Right. Not to drag that into it, but it is the most recent episode of Doctor Who that we have to talk about.
Here's two controversies. One completely concocted in my own head. One that people commented on, and they're dumb to have commented on. Like,
wait, are you about to teach the controversy?
Yes. So one is just my own funny idea, but one is the people going, oh, they shouldn't have had this COVID thing in, blah blah blah. They're being political, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, this thing affected all of us for a good number of years. Thank God somebody's putting it in somewhere as a thing. Right. Like, because it happened to us. We got to address it one way or the other, or at least integrate it into what we talk about. And I do like that it actually touches on what probably a lot of people in England are mad about. Hey, we're doing all this stuff, and our idiot leaders are not doing that and being very blatant about it. And, that touches on a lot of class stuff too, which is more relevant to a UK audience in here, but not all as much as you'd think. Anyway, that was kind of cool they put it in there. Yeah. The other thing is my own controversy I've cooked up in my head, where they have visit your famous assassinations, Lincoln, Kennedy, and there's a blank one underneath. And I'm like, well, I know what I'd put there.
Oh boy.
Wow. Olaf Pool, obviously, in Sweden, 1986.
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Shinzo Abe.
Yeah, I do. I know it's amazing how, like, I don't watch shows, but Erica watches shows, so therefore that's where I get my references from. But like the Good Fight directly referenced COVID, because it sort of takes place.
But there's a lot less than you think.
Yeah, a lot less. But then you're just trying to think, like, what other contemporary shows have actually referenced that, how many?
Probably something, but
the last big epidemic, the 1918 flu epidemic, the one commonly known as the Spanish flu, which is a completely inaccurate name. It sort of predates media in a way, so you don't exactly get a lot of like films or anything.
There's no radio shows or anything.
There's no science.
Yeah, there might be a book or two somewhere.
There's no silent movies covering it, so they get a kind of a pass for not ever mentioning it, because who wants to mention that after having lived through it?
And World War II, or one.
Yeah. It's a lot. Well, World War I is much more marketable, of course, but than a pandemic.
But that's a lot of trauma for one group of people.
Yeah,
mostly young people who died from
so many. We were watching one of the Hallmark movies this past year, and somebody mentioned, he's down with Flurona, is what they even said. They couldn't even bring themselves to say COVID in the script. They had to invent a term called Flurona.
Just to bring it back to our usual tropey nonsense. Right. I remember watching Coronation Street specifically to see, because they were the ones that were shooting, and they were working around it, and apparently very well. So I just watched one episode to go, oh yeah, they're doing a great job of working around the fact that you've got two people who probably were tested in the same room, and that's pretty much it. So I was actually impressed with how they worked around it.
But I don't know. It probably wasn't involved in the actual drama, their actual storyline.
No. I think the show is a show, especially since this is early days of COVID. But they did kind of very cleverly shoot it in a way that they could do it with the minimal amount of people. And I'm like, you know what? Nicely done, Coronation Street.
So I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but my wife is friends with somebody who is on that show, and they had, because it takes place in a hospital, so they shot during COVID and had it all set during COVID for like a whole season.
Interesting.
And that's because it's a hospital.
I
said it's a hospital show. What can you do? Yeah.
But also that it would make sense for them to be wearing masks because it's a hospital. So
good
like
point.
they people who, and this was before the vaccines were available, they could still shoot. Like all the crew had to be like completely masked up and stuff like that. But all the actors basically were too, and then they could in scenes where they had to have their masks off, they would just, take all the precautions that you would normally, but like they could shoot with lots of people because everybody had to wear a mask. So I think that was the one that I heard of that was like, because that one still shoots really fast. And, there's like 20 some episodes. It comes out every year. Like it's the old, it's basically a soap opera. It's close as Primetime gets to like regular soap operas anymore. And I thought that was sort of an interesting.
And Shameless touched on it for the final episode, as I recall.
Yeah. But we're
mostly
we're picking at like how many other shows that like just don't mention it because
especially now.
For sure,
and especially Doctor
now.
Who.
Yeah.
Like Doctor Who is a time travel show. Like so this happened then, so we're like did Doctor Who ever like I suppose the Doctor never came went back and like solved the 1918 epidemic either or any other. Never go back. I'm going to cure bubonic plague this trip. He never did that either. So it's right that whatever is the current pandemic that the Doctor is actually and Doctor Who is referencing actual history because you're right, Warren. We all
and I do think that it does make you really like feel for Joy like. Yeah. When you see that scene where she's just like, oh yeah, this did happen like to a lot of people. Like that's not like a made up thing. Like what if there was a person who couldn't see their mom before they died? Like that's a real thing that happened a lot.
Yeah.
And so it did immediately. And it also explains like why she would not want to spend time at, with anyone at Christmas, why she sort of made herself feel guilty and, I shouldn't get to spend Christmas with people because I don't deserve it and like all that stuff. And, it's, I thought that made a lot of sense. I do still think that her becoming a star at the end was dumb, but other than that, I think that I think her reasons were very sound, and I was pleased that was there for that reason.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it just sort of said like, well, here's Joy. She's got nothing left to live for. She's single. Her mom's died. She feels bad about it.
Well, single people should be shot, as
right? Let's just turn her into a star.
Speaking as one myself.
Yeah, it's it does kind of say like oh Anita, you had a good fun at this. Why don't you come and work at the Time Hotel? Maybe she enjoys working at that hotel in Sandringham. I don't know. She never said yes. We never saw her actually say yes if she was going to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun little bit, but it's like, why isn't she a companion? Come on, make her a companion.
Yeah. No, I don't know if she was. I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure she wasn't.
Given
the way they wrote it too.
Honestly, that's why I like that storyline so much because we weren't necessarily witnessing a companion audition here or anything. Like, we were just witnessing the Doctor hanging out with a friend.
And if she's hanging for a year, she kind of is a companion. So
a little bit, yeah.
Or he's a companion to her. She's the one running a hotel.
Yeah. Went inside the TARDIS as often as Liz Shaw did.
That's
Shaw was a companion.
True, yeah.
Yeah. Or Yates. I know, right?
Got her.
Yeah. What else about this episode? People have been talking about the Hobbit door. You can see in one.
I noticed it, but I didn't put too much thought into it.
Is that actual Hobbiton, or is it just the theme park in New Zealand?
I thought Pisa was actually going to be another TARDIS, but because it sort of looked like the TARDIS.
Yeah, I know
door.
some of the doors look like they're actually like walls and stuff. I really like that set. I noticed.
Oh, it's a great set. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody was paying attention, but there was a snippet of the song used in Voyage of the Damned in the very beginning as they fly through the hotel a little bit in the opening establishment.
I did
shot,
not, but that's common for them to reuse the good stuff.
I suppose so. I'm just watching it now in front of me, and there is indeed the Hobbit door right there, right next to and there's another blue door, which is like weird and interesting, but I don't know. Just thought it was interesting. There's one to ancient Rome there to see Julius Caesar's assassination. There you go, Warren.
Well, there you go. And that's the one. That's the one I was referring to.
Wink, wink.
But
Andrew McKinley,
and this is just me. When the dinosaur briefcase ends up in that temple, I've been playing a lot of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, so my mind instantly went to all the different places I could find a switch to open the thing.
Right.
Great game, by the way. Really fun.
I was going to say,
it's great. It's fantastic. The guy who plays Harrison Ford absolutely nails it.
Troy Baker.
They go and get you the two things you want out of Indiana Jones. Well, the three things. Most importantly, a line going across a map. that is key.
Yeah.
You simply must have it.
But also just a lot of tomb running around and exploring, and that stuff's really cool, and jumping in. And most importantly, you punch a hell of a lot of Nazis.
Look,
which is just abject good.
Right,
really.
yeah. I didn't know that Troy Baker was the guy who did Indiana
He
Jones.
does an excellent
Troy
job.
Baker.
Harrison Ford himself, half cut at the Game Awards, said, this guy's amazing.
Troy Baker was the star of Last of Us games, so he played Joel.
Oh, he's a big name video game voice guy, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Other people have mentioned in there I do like the bits about the doctor's like fixing the microwave and it's like, oh, it's bigger on the inside now, and like the plunger, he has the plunger, is this thing armed?
It's a great line,
which is amusing because of course
and the pause before that, and he's just so like he means it, right?
Yeah, it was those moments that I don't think we've had enough of. Was Doctor that I really appreciated this for. I feel like because he wasn't there as much in the first season, and by the time he sort of got there and got his his feet wet a little bit, he was like, oh, well, now we're filming big stuff, and so you have to like act as it's all big, and it's it's nice to see the Doctor have these little moments of downtime, which I don't
walking
think
out of the TARDIS with his bathrobe on. That was great.
That was I thought. I mean, the idea of the hotel itself was very much restaurant at the end of the universe in a way, and I thought him walking out with the bathrobe was a little Arthur Dent. And I'm thinking, are we doing a reference here in regards to that, or is he just wearing a bathrobe?
He's wearing a bathrobe.
Yeah,
that's the only time most people wear bathrobes is in hotels.
I guess so.
Sure.
Doctor doesn't usually wear one, but it does give him a reason to take off the bathrobe and put the coat on, which is part of like, oh, why am I putting this on? Which is very Moffat as well. Like when he's sort of like, oh, I'm springing into action for some reason,
Also, I did like mentioning that you don't have any chairs, which is a valid, although 10 did have a chair, I believe.
He had a little bench along there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That looked like hot dog buns. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned in Blue Sky or something, I think what would have been neat towards the end of the episode is the Doctor putting out a chair in the TARDIS,
Yeah.
Or two. As great as that set is, and as little as we saw of it again.
Why did you put a chair in that set, though? Like it would kind of ruin the flow of the whole thing. I'm looking at it right now.
The jukebox is there.
I suppose,
you could pop a chair around there or something.
Take the hotel chair and put it in there.
Yeah.
Just as a continuous thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's could always pop out from the floor.
Good point. Yes,
in a little bubble, like number two's
the
in
jukebox
the prisoner.
flips over to be the chair.
Oh my god!
So you can only use one or the other. You can't listen to the music while you're or it goes backwards because it's upside down.
Anything else we haven't mentioned yet? You want to talk about Joy to the World?
I'm hitting the wall here. It's fine. It's good.
It's fine. Yeah, it's kind of slight in a weird way. Like. Which I guess, Christmas specials can be slight. That's fine.
That's true. Which is fine. It's all good.
Let's talk.
Yes.
People have been talking about the Silurian aspect of it.
All right.
And I don't think it matters one little bit.
No, it's kind of a cute thing, and it shows the Silurians have gone out into the space, which I'd assume they would do anyway, right? Because
he came. I don't know. Somebody. There was some time hotel door that went into a cave, and he went through, and so that's how he got there in his death scene. There.
Cry because just a point of pedantry. I'm not sure lizards can cry. So
he's not a lizard. He's a Silurian.
Oh no, I know that, but they probably don't have tear ducts because of their physiognomy.
Well, they also walk and talk.
Yeah, I know. It's just a trope. Who cares? Like they probably don't have eyes that look like that either, or teeth that look like human teeth. So played
by Jonathan Aris, whose father Ben Aris was in The Invasion of the Dinosaurs Part 1. So there's
and then he invaded as a dinosaur.
Add that to the list of Doctor Who father son or parent child combinations going along with the Watlings, Deborah Watling and Jack Watling, and I'm sure there's another one in there that I'm forgetting.
Is this a hint that
Rachel Sterling?
We must be coming back as a third Doctor.
That's
obviously,
Rachel Sterling and Diana Rigg obviously were the other one. I don't know who else Toby Haydock would know though. I don't yet. I'm not going to research it. I'm just going to ask Toby Haydock and he'll tell me.
Jonathan Aris was also in Sherlock.
He was in many things. He was in the Dracula, I think, too. Yeah. I think.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Moffat. He was in there. Somebody has mentioned in the chat.
2 episodes of which were really good.
That's what I heard. The third one.
Oh no, what happened?
Somebody, I've seen this mentioned a couple times. I don't know Mr. Ben. Somebody said, "What a great Mr. Ben reference is." This thing like a Mr. Ben's thing. I think it's a Red Knight or something. I did Google it and it's like, I don't know what this is, but there's a reference to Mr. Ben in there. And we are from North America, everyone.
We're dummies,
and we don't get that. I know that, which it's a kid's show apparently from the UK. So there we go.
Sure. This is like when we talk about Mr. Dress Up.
Yeah.
Kyle's like, what the hell?
That's true. So there we go. We've referenced it. We don't know anything about it. It's a kid's show from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the Tripods or something like that. But
okay, trailed off.
Yeah.
a little bit. Well, all right. Well, there you go. Anyway, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's an episode of Doctor Who. Doctor Who will return, it said, proclaiming boldly, but no date given. Just that it will return. And if you're watching on Disney Plus, no trailer, but there was a trailer and a press release for
Not much of
season
one.
2. No, that's true. With a few pictures of Doctor Who.
That is the key to the whole business.
In this TARDIS
pinstripe kilt.
Yeah, she was got like a pinstripe kilt on. We see the new companion, Belinda Tondra, is played by Varda Sethu, who of course was in Boom earlier. And there's some cool shots from the trailer as well, which we aren't showing on our live stream or anything like that. But they also did have, if you watched Doctor Who Unleashed, they had a brief scene set in a hospital from season
where she's
2,
presumably
episode 1.
introduced. Yeah,
she's I don't know what if she's works at the hospital or what, but she was there. So that's and then also Ruby Sundays and Kate Lethbridge-Stewart is in the teaser that came out on the BBC platforms and stuff. But apart from
all the unit people
were there. But apart from the unit things, I didn't recognize anyone or anything, which I like. I like it when
I'm fine with that.
Doctor Who doesn't rely on returning villains or anything like that. Which is kind of cool. The short scene where the animated character is crawling out of the screen, which was
the early Disney, or early 30s, let's say, animated creature. That was good. That
was pretty cool. I really like that. But no broadcast date, no drop dates. That'll come later. It's just a teaser that we got. Have you seen the teaser at all, Kyle? Did you watch that at all?
I have. Yes, I did watch it. I'm going to bring it up because I want to make specific references. But it was very much what I expected. It's also really short.
Very short.
Yeah.
Like 30 seconds, if that. Yeah.
Like, don't forget to subscribe is a big chunk of it, frankly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 41 seconds totes. Oh boy. I should probably mute it. Yeah.
Right.
We get robots, Mrs. Flood, sorts of. Yeah, it's cool. Like, it's, people have been talking about
Mrs. Flood being in there. It makes sense she would be, but I missed that.
Had the opera glasses on, yeah.
She had the opera glasses on, yeah. The hose-armed cartoon character.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
That's it. Yeah, it's just a bunch of flying around. So,
yeah.
Part of me is like, maybe they only have like a couple of episodes finished, so maybe that's all they're putting in. But
right.
But yeah, I think it looks good. I'm excited. You can see the budget, which I think is what people really liked about the first season, the first Disney Plus season. Every time anything cool happened, it was like, oh, there's the Disney budget. And it's just like, all right.
even in the specials, which didn't have a Disney budget, we still said that.
Yeah.
We're just as good
That's
as
where
else
it's coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really did like Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday, so I'm glad that she's not like gone.
Yeah, she's fine.
And I'm always happy to see Unit back. But I like that, which we saw from the Tenet specials forward, is like they built this huge Unit set. They're not going to just tear it down. Like, they're going to use Unit as much as possible. And same with the big TARDIS set and Ruby's house and stuff like that. Like, these are going to be places that we return to time and again. So, which I like. I like that it doesn't feel so either location centric, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with location shooting, but I kind of like the fact that they have the budget to build this huge kind of compound. We'll call it Compound W. For who?
Sure, why not?
Wow.
Just because I know it'll bug friend of the show, Jake Simpson, I'm going to say the big bad, because he asked in the chat, wonder who the big bad will be. I'm going to say it's going to be the 14th Doctor.
Oh,
absolutely not.
Shocking.
Absolutely won't, but
shocking.
That's why they kept him around, so he could be the big bad.
This might be a sidebar, but
we don't usually do those on this podcast, Kyle. For what it's worth,
never once.
Yeah.
But I never expected Sutekh to ever come back, and I certainly didn't expect him to be the villain, probably because there was nothing at all to point to him being the villain the entire time. But who else, like, what other big kind of
they're building towards some big pantheon thing, so what is that?
Yeah, like who else could it be?
Well, I have a thought on that.
Okay,
great. I love thoughts.
I don't one more thought than I do. So it's my silly 14th Doctor nonsense.
I think there were some shirts being sold at Forbidden Planet some official Doctor Who shirts that had and various other items. I'm doing this from the top of my head, but they were pictures of who we know as the Black Guardian. Valentine Dial with the bird on his head one. So from season 20.
The best Guardian is what you're saying.
Except the caption on this thing was not the Black Guardian. It was the Guardian of Chaos.
That would make way more sense. Like, to bring back, if you're going to bring back anybody, the Guardians would make the most thematic sense.
Kind of feels like they were laying the groundwork a little bit. It wasn't like touted. I didn't see it anywhere else apart from the Forbidden Planet website, but it was a line of collection. So if you're looking at that, the one dressed in black, and then maybe if you look at Mrs. Flood, who is dressed in white, might be.
Although she's also playing off of what Romana looked like in the Reboss.
Exactly, the Guardian of.
Which is
whatever the opposite. Exactly. They're going away from black and white Guardian and calling them something else. That's just me thinking off the top of my head.
That's not bad. I like that because obviously Mrs. Flood is something. Like, we're not.
Yeah,
she's winked at the camera too many times now for her not to be something.
And she doesn't seem like she's too evil per se.
No, she seems kind of amoral in a weird way.
Amoral, not benevolent, but amoral. Kind of like as you think about White Guardian in Rebuff's operation, you mean nothing will happen to me, nothing at all, ever. There's that line there that can be drawn, even though he's the good Guardian.
These are such elevated beings that who else would you have? You know what I mean? If anybody's going to tell the toy maker or Sutek what to do, it's going to be those guys. I can't think of anybody else. Somebody else could probably come up somebody from Big Finish or somebody who's actually in the classic series or whatever.
Right.
But if you're going to draw from somebody that makes all us dorks who watch the classic series go, ooh, ah, Sutek would be one of them, and these guys would be another one. Or doesn't have to be guys, like you said.
Yeah. I can dig that. I think that would be fun. Because they're
so angry when it doesn't happen.
Fun than Sutek.
Yeah. I got to say, like, if you're going to bring back Sutek, do something interesting with him, which they did not.
The intro is great. I love it, but
Yeah, because like you said, like just a big cartoon dog flying through the time thing. It just looked so silly, and
then
it
get defeated by a fishing wire. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and then just having to retcon all the stuff you've already seen for the past 40 years, and thinking, oh, there's a dog on the outside of the TARDIS there. And
so next season, when it turns to be Guardians, we'll have some sort of retcon that involves the key to time.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
But anyway, I like the idea of these kind of weird out of, if you're really going to do the thing, which is that the toy maker is this weird out of the actual like fabric of the universe character, then you have like stuff like the Guardians or the Eternals and like things like that we've seen already in Doctor Who that could come back in some fashion and not like mess up anything. That was my problem with Sutek. It's like Sutek is so like quote unquote grounded. Like it's an old god, but it's really just an old alien that was a reference to ancient Egypt. And it's like, in order to, he really kind of fudged it. And then
gods.
Yeah.
I know it's explained that like, because of the time space universe bending, whatever, like all the stuff in Wild Blue Yonder, like this, he was elevated in the pantheon. And it's just like, well, that's silly. Like, you just wanted to bring
Doctor Who,
Sutek
it's
back.
all silly. But
Of course. Look. Yeah. Silliness is a gradient scale.
Fair enough, yes.
So there's a level of silliness that I will buy 100%, and then there's a level I'm like, come on. But
they also hinted at the Master returning at the end of the Giggle, right? So you'd presume that maybe it'll be the War Chief. We'll get to that.
Would love it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens in season 2, I guess. Premiering what we believe will be March 28th. But we'll see. We'll see when that is. We'll see what the date is sooner than you think. RTD said in the one show earlier this month. But
January 1st.
Exactly. Thank you.
Probably that would be astoundingly bad publicity if you said that Doctor Who and then they just drop.
People were already mad that Disney Plus didn't promote it enough, and it's like it's a Doctor Who Christmas special. It's on Christmas. You know that.
Yeah, I know.
What more promotion do you need?
It's not high on Disney's list of priorities compared to other things.
It really isn't.
Real money.
I feel like the BBC probably says, okay, in our negotiations, you drop it whenever you want, and we'll go with what you want. We'll drop it on iPlayer first if that's what you want. But Christmas is ours, and you will drop Christmas specials when you want. Hence Disney dropping the Christmas special at precisely 12:10 Eastern at the exact time it aired on the UK. That was sort of part of it, because what does Disney care about?
No,
Christmas
compared to the stuff they're spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars on, this is not a priority.
Yeah.
And also, Americans don't watch television on Christmas. That's a thing. Americans do not care about television.
They don't. It was there. It was mentioned. It's on the top banner of you go to Disney Plus. It's one of 8-10 things on there. So it's there, but it's Christmas Day. I
don't like defending business people. Really. I really hate it, actually. But in this case, I got to say, there's only so much Disney has to do when it comes to this stuff. This is a thing they're showing, just like other things they're showing.
Yeah.
They let people interview Nicola Coughlan, Russell T. Davis, and Steven Moffat. That's pretty good. Yeah. So that's enough promotion.
Better than most. Yeah.
Exactly. So we don't normally get that kind of stuff as unless you're Entertainment Weekly or something like that. Access to the showrunner, the writer, and the main guest star and stuff like that. So they're doing plenty.
Yeah.
To get the word out. They're just not putting enough banners up or whatever you want.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see what they do for season 2. Because I'm just trying to think. It aired, season 1 is May of last year. It wasn't really competing with anything else on the service per se. Is there anything else going on at the time? When did the Acolyte air? I can't remember when that was going.
That was July, I think.
Yeah, July. Yeah. But here now, we've got Andor coming back in late April, which is a Star Wars property, and you would think that would
be the least watched one, even though we think it's great.
The least watched one, apparently,
sure.
and it's also the best one. But it also might be more prevalent in the...
Oh, it absolutely will get more promotion. Star Wars, they outright own Star Wars.
Yeah.
Just like they outright own the Muppets, for instance, or something like that.
Which
or
leads,
Simpsons.
Yeah, which leads me to believe why Doctor Who will be airing earlier than that, so they can at least give a run up to Doctor Who, get that going, and then for 3 weeks, and then Andor will come along, and that will sort of capture the attention of the Disney marketing people. I thought that was another Disney thing that was coming on too. No, I'm thinking
so Daredevil's coming out in March,
right.
and Ironheart is in June. So I imagine it would be in betwixt.
Yeah.
And again, those are outright owned, and a lot of money goes into them. Mm-hmm. So that's just going to take priority.
Yeah.
The more is on the line with those than there is with Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it would probably be May again, honestly. Or February. May? There's nothing in February.
Well, there is your Captain America movie coming out in February, which I know isn't on
that's not on Disney Plus.
But I imagine
that'll be 3 or 4 months later.
Yeah. It is still part of the Disney
hype machine. Yeah.
Hype machine. So they want to promote stuff on its own. So yeah, that leaked email from a few months back said March 28th. So my guess is still March 28th for Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think that's probably fine. Whatever. Yeah. It comes out when it comes out. I just got some yesterday. So.
I suppose so. Listen,
Doctor Who.
As long as it doesn't coincide with an epic Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup playoff run like the first season of Doctor Who did, with Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals happening the same night as the Doctor Who finale, which was my world colliding in an inconvenient
definite
fashion.
Priority of Disney. Yes.
I would like for them to not do that. So it would be much better for me if they started.
Hold on, everybody.
March.
One guy doesn't like this. We better stop everything.
Just a second. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Anything else on the current state of Doctor Who season 2 trailers? Anything you want to mention before we move on to a brief bit of stats? Because we do have some stats. We do have some stats.
I love a stat.
Let's do the stats. Let's just get over
Here's
with.
Some stats. Doctor Who overnight viewing figure. BBC won the day. The top 10 programs are all BBC. ITV basically put up their white flag to begin with. So.
Financial straits, from what I've heard.
Yeah, they kind of are. They did not do anything in regards to Shangela. They put old movies and the news or something on. Anyway,
they've also completely removed their stake of BritBox. I don't know if you knew that, but ITV.
They did. Yeah, BBC bought it all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Anyway, Doctor Who finished 6th for the day out of all that with 4.11 million. My guess is going to be 3.99, so it was a little bit better than that. It might go up on the aggregate score. It was only at 5:10 p.m. It just felt very early for a Doctor Who episode, but it was leading into Wallace and Gromit,
which apparently is great.
Most Foul, which got 9.38 million. And then it dropped right down again for Call the Midwife and EastEnders, I think. and then went right back up to the number one show of the day, which is the Gavin and Stacey Christmas special, 12.32 million.
Which is huge.
Yeah, I did see somewhere, I didn't see what the percentage of was for Doctor Who, but EastEnders, I think, whatever was on before Doctor Who, was like 44.8% of the viewing public, and it was at 4 million. So think about that when you see, criminal Doctor Who ratings, 4.11 million. It was still almost half of what the BBC was, who were watching TV at that time. That's the state of broadcast television now in this day
Confusing.
and age, kids. Yeah, it's very, very few people are watching it. Most people probably had it on there. I guarantee you that if everyone went back to their parents to watch Doctor Who, that far too many people watch Doctor Who with motion smoothing on their TV because their parents have that.
I was explaining to my parents how there's a public service announcement on various social media services. Here's each model of TV. Here's how you turn off motion smoothing when you go back home.
Yeah.
And I told my parents the first thing I did when I bought my TV, turn that crap off. I want nothing near me.
Yeah. So anyway, as I said, the iPlayer stats will probably come in for that and probably boost Doctor Who up a little bit more for that, but it's immaterial. It's immaterial when you think about it. Overnight viewing figures for what 80-year-olds watched on BBC One the night before.
The King's Speech, which I actually did watch because I happened to be on in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
It was fine. He does a good job of delivering speeches. I'll give him that.
Mm-hmm. Do you get the King's Speech in the U.S. there, Kyle? Do you ever get that? No. Didn't think so.
We never got the Queen's Speech. We never got anything.
No. Oddly enough, maybe it was on BBC America. You know what else is on BBC America? I know this because I saw their Instagram thing about it. There was a David Tennant Doctor Who marathon on BBC America on
That's
Christmas
weird.
Day. Mm-hmm. I didn't think they had the rights to that still, but there it was.
Somebody else posted recently, and I forget where I saw it, if it was on Blue Sky or if it was on Reddit, but that on BBC America, like it said Doctor Who is coming back or something like that. And so I think it's just I think they have reestablished that they have the rights to show the old, the first 10 seasons or whatever.
Right.
Maybe only the first 5 or 6. I don't know, but
yeah.
Because I don't think Warner Brothers cares.
No, I don't think so.
No,
it feels so incongruous for Doctor Who to be on Max, I guess is what it is, right?
Especially
in the US,
more than 10 years old Doctor Who. I mean, sorry, on BBC America.
Yeah, like it's still on,
weird,
it's on Prime Video here. Seasons 1 through 10.
I keep forgetting it's on Prime Video.
It's on Prime. I don't know.
I keep forgetting I have Prime Video.
I know.
On top of everything else.
The Jodie Whittaker stuff isn't on there. I think it's still owned by Bell Media here in this country, but it's on a Crave. So, like, if you want to watch Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who, you're either going to buy it or.
God, that drives me so insane. Where it's like, well, you can watch these 2 seasons on this, but the rest of it is on this one. It's just like, I forget what show it was, but there was like the first 2 seasons of some show were on Netflix here, but then everything else was on Paramount Plus, and it's like, well, what? Like, why is this?
I know.
Here's 2 Canadian things. One, Bell Media having the rights to something and not showing it is about the most Canadian and Bell Media thing you could ever heard of.
Right.
And also, up until, and I'm pretty sure it was just me causing this because who else would have cared? There were two seasons of a 90s, really very funny and insightful sitcom on CBC Gem called Made in Canada with national hero Rick Mercer. And they didn't have seasons 3, 4, and 5, which you couldn't get anywhere else. And so I just kept emailing and getting no responses.
Yeah.
But then it just showed up somewhere. And they own this lock, stock, and barrel. So CBC, the national broadcaster, just didn't bother having it on until me and presumably 4 or 5 other people yelled about it.
Yeah.
I know I did. I can only speak for myself. I definitely yelled about it.
Mm-hmm. It's weird.
Oh, CanCon.
I know.
Yeah, CanCon's a very odd beast.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. That's enough for stats. Let's talk about the other big thing that happened this week in Doctor Who, which was the War Games in color. 90-minute cut-down version in color, re-edited, colorized, obviously, featuring about 3 minutes of brand new HD footage. Brought about.
Here's my second wink.
Not to toot our own horn, but came about because of an interview with Chris Hayden, the original film editor of the War Games, on this very podcast, where he mentioned in the podcast itself that I have a bunch of film from there. We recorded that in late September, and when I watched the clips of it, like that, we were showing screen grabs on our live stream, which do not do it justice. But
it's so nice
when that bit of moving footage popped up. It was staggering how good quality that was. And it was like I was proud of this little podcast of ours. I will say that somehow in our little way, shape, and form, we managed to make this happen. And when it comes on Blu-ray, everyone can sort of appreciate it more. And when season 6 comes out eventually on Blu-ray as well, we can see the full context of the new footage in there. But it was really nice. Kyle, I know you did not see the War Games yet.
I didn't. No, I was. No. I'm not even sure where I would have watched it.
Exactly. No, I'm not sure where we would have watched it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wink. Wink, wink. But we did, and we were very appreciative of it. Anyway.
And just to point out, I was able to hang out with one of the colorists of the War Games in color before, because he was here for Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
For a few hours. So let me just say, if we have to go to these lengths to see this, when we know people who worked on the damn thing and got stuff into it, that tells you the current state of stupidity of distributing things.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be easier to get, frankly.
Yeah, it really should be. You know what? Daleks in Color showed up on iTunes when we weren't even expecting it, months before the Blu-ray came out.
It may have here again, in which case I will buy it for sure. I'll check right now.
Everyone in the live chat right now, search the iTunes store to see if the War Games in Color is there yet, and we will buy it. But anyway, it was very interesting to see. I think because we know what World War I looks like. The colorization didn't seem as shocking as the Daleks in Color did, because they were basically inventing what these things were going to look like in color for that special. But we know what World War I looks like. It's gross, and so you could get away with browns and grays and stuff.
Color work is fantastic.
But really, because of that, from what I've seen, it looks incredible.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was really cool. I thought the edit worked quite well. I liked Mark Ayres's melding with the Dudley Simpson music. I thought it actually worked quite well. Sometimes he was just echoing what Dudley Simpson was doing and making a little more, you can
still kind of tell, but it's nice to see.
Yeah. The controversial element, and this is the spoiler territory.
Well, there's two different controversial elements.
Oh, I've seen the end bit.
No, it's not even the end bit was bought lock, stock, and barrel from the person on YouTube, Confession Dial on YouTube. The original, it's there, full on. We're
gonna get spoilers, people, by the way, for the bits and pieces they added.
But the second one is when the War Chief appears and you start hearing the music. It's wait a minute, it's the Master Vainglorious, the Master's theme from Utopia and Last of the Time Lords. And then just to hammer the point home afterwards, you hear the Dudley Simpson master theme from the Mind of Evil soundtrack and everything. So there, and when he gets killed, the War Chief, you can hear
the music,
the regeneration, the regenergy happening as they pull him off screen.
You don't see it, but you hear it.
Yeah. So they were really kind of hammering home.
I mean, he's a Time Lord, so that makes sense no matter what.
It's been a long-standing fan theory that the War Chief is in fact the Master, and I think they were really driving it home that is indeed the fact. I have to admit, I was saying is it really the Master, or is it just the music that we're using to recreate that there's a Time Lord hidden in here? But no, I think that
My answer is, if you want it to be one way, you can watch it that way. If you want it to be the other way, just watch the 10-episode one or bits and pieces of it. Nothing changes in either of them. It doesn't matter.
Those of you not watching the live stream or not witnessed Kyle's scrunched up face shaking his head at all of this upon hearing it for the first time. So, Kyle, I'm going to assume that you do not agree with this direction.
No, it just takes some of the magic out of it. You know what I mean? It was a cool thing for the Doctor to have run into another Time Lord.
Right.
It is less cool if that ends up just being the Master that we didn't know about it yet because they hadn't created the Master. You know what I mean? Because it's just it's the freaking Master again. I don't know. I just think it's less. I think it's less exciting if it's the Master. It's the same thing with if what's the guy's name in Armageddon Factor?
Drax.
Barry Jackson.
Drax. If Drax had been the monk or something like that, you know what I mean? It's just not interesting.
Yeah. Right.
I like the idea of there being more renegade Time Lords out there, or whatever. And if it's just the Master and the Doctor all the time, it's the Skywalker saga problem where it's just everyone is either a Palpatine, a Skywalker, or a Solo. Cool.
Right.
That's
so
so
I agree
boring.
with everything you said, but I also didn't really mind. That they shoehorned it in. It's kind of more of a meta thing where you shoehorned it in, and well done for doing that, given something else they put at the end.
Yeah.
Which I also enjoyed, even though it completely screws up continuity as well, kind of.
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm also I'm a grumpy fanboy about this type of thing, but
Uh-huh.
I hate retconning. I hate it. No, that's not true.
And yet you love comic books, which is the,
Well, I
the
know.
fountain of all
That's-
retconning.
I hate fan wanky retcon. That's the
Okay,
bit that
fair
I don't
enough.
like, where it's just
I
like,
know.
it was actually this thing that nobody knew about, and
Right,
when you
right.
watch it in retrospect, like, I hate that stuff.
That was a very good
I get-
nostalgia critic image
Yeah.
imitation you did there.
Yeah.
State-sanctioned fan fiction, basically, is kind of what it is.
Yes, that
Yeah.
drives me crazy. I think it makes Star Wars less exciting. It makes Marvel TV shows, which they haven't done quite as much, but like it makes that less exciting
Yeah.
to me when it's like, it was actually, spoilers, I guess, for Secret Invasion, which was the worst Marvel thing.
Never finished it. First time. Never finished a Marvel thing.
The big surprise at the end is that Rhodey was a Skrull, seemingly the
That's
whole
dumb.
time. It's
Yeah,
like,
that is really stupid.
that's
Doesn't make
so
any sense.
stupid. Like,
That Sutek riding on the outside of the
That
TARDIS for
is-
40
yeah.
years
Yeah.
because
I-
you have
Rhodey.
you have to think back about how many times we saw him in the Marvel movies, and he was a Skrull the whole time apparently.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're assuming post Civil War. So like that whole time in Endgame when he's like sad about, he goes and helps. He's sad about Tony dying and all this stuff. That
Right.
you're
And
telling me
acts
that's a
exactly
Skrull?
like Rhodey. Yeah.
Come on. And also it sucks because that's a thing that they came up with later. So that means that the performance is, he was doing it wrong. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Like
I suppose
he
so,
was,
yeah.
he thought he was just regular Rhodey. See, that kind of stuff really drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And I think they're probably going to just ignore at least most of that because
Oh, I'm
nobody
sure they
liked
will.
Secret
For that
Invasion.
there.
but-
Just like they'll ignore Kang. What a powerful being that we'd never
Right.
heard from again because him and Poochie are hanging out
Right.
they
on their whole planet.
yeah. Well, they talked about the very, very end of Loki season 2 because he features heavily in that.
Yes, there's no way getting around it. Yeah.
They were basically like, "Oh, we managed to round him up in all the different time zones." It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
isn't
I
that
missed
nice?
that.
Right.
Yeah, it's very stupid. So,
Mm.
yeah. So they did what they did. I don't think they, whatever. It's,
Yeah.
It just takes some of the fun away. I just think having people go like, "Oh, it had to have been the Master because there's only 2 Time Lords and Rassilon that exist in the entire
and
world."
it kind
is
of like to be like I when you look at it this way, it just sort of hammered home like they probably, like Terrence Dicks says, actually, we created a renegade Time Lord who was evil and had a beard and a mustache. Like when you think about it, the War Chief doesn't look too dissimilar to Roger Delgado's Master.
Sure.
But if
And
you want
it's-
to talk about rubbish beards, that's a rubbish beard.
and it's only separated by like a year. When you think about it, the War Games is only like a year. Like they're probably thinking like probably months after the War Games, they're writing season 8. And they're probably just thinking, wait a minute, that guy,
We
that
killed
kind
our
of
guy
worked.
off. We got to come up with a new guy.
In a way, that kind of did kill the original Master off when you think about it. So it's a bit of fun. It's a remix. It's in
Yeah, it
color
doesn't bug me that
now.
much. I get why it bugs you.
yeah,
I totally agree with everything you're saying, but I just can't be bothered to be bugged, I guess.
I guess.
If they for some reason bring the Master back again in the RTD era, which I don't think is going to happen, certainly not next season. I think that's been done.
see.
I think it's done. I don't think that unless they reference the fact that the War Chief is in fact, because that doesn't feel like a Mark Ayers directive in putting the music cues in. That feels like a higher up directive saying, what if we made him? Because it's only through music cues that is being.
And
Yeah.
they would have to check with the powers that be of, are we doing this right?
Yeah,
Somebody would have to approve it. So
Yeah.
RTD presumably. So
Yeah. I don't know. I saw it as a bit of fun.
Yeah, me too.
And it was a good moment. The music actually added to the moment, although it was the Master's theme, which is kind of unfortunate, I suppose, when you think about it. If you want to stick to continuity that regard. But other than that, I thought it was great. I actually quite liked the trial scene. I thought the trial scene and the music on it actually played up like the Zoe and Jamie goodbye scenes were actually quite
it was very touching.
Very
Yeah.
touching. When the Doctor's choosing his next appearance, they show up future incarnations.
Yeah.
Capaldi,
He's like,
Matt Smith.
He's like, too thin. Like they mix
Yeah.
it with what he's saying, and then Jodie shows up, and then there's who's it after Jodie? It's Matt Smith, and he's
Yeah.
like, he's too funny looking or something.
Yeah,
like that.
They cut out the one where he's too fat, isn't he? Because that would be very unkind.
Or too young. Too young.
Yeah,
I guess
too
both of them
young.
would be too young.
Yeah, they kind of match up with as opposed to the original sketches. And they actually had like clips of things that he did, as opposed to guys wearing costumes over on camera 3, which they cut in the original War Games. It's actually has clips of
Also colorized.
colorized from the Dominators and the Daleks. So the trial scene, Kyle, worked quite well. actually. So, there's large elements of the War Games in color, which I think worked quite well. And
I really enjoyed watching it. I also think the 10-parter whips by faster than any right to.
Really does. Yeah.
Also, and at the end, they took, I'd love to give the guy credit, but I can't remember his name. Somebody redid the regeneration from 2 to 3 and did a very good job. They just reused that essentially. But I think it works. Yeah. And as they show the TARDIS coming towards Earth, they have the Auton cube thingies flying towards the Earth because they're going
Thunderballs, I call them.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes.
Yeah. It was kind of cool because it happens. That's literally the next episode, is how it happens.
Also, there's one little bit that I actually messaged Steven. I'm like, is this from the original? I don't remember this. But they have this sort of overhead view and then another view of like the war games, like the war chief or whatever's base. And they've got like little tiny planes and and there's way too much movement. But is it a model like that they made specifically for us? Because it looks like a model of its kind. So it's either great CG made to look like a model or it's an actual model. Either way, it totally fits with what the whole thing is. It just feels very of the time.
Mm-hmm. And shots of that helped cover up some edits of other things that happen and things too. But
there's little biplanes going by in the background, in a background that is clearly supposed to look like a background and not the sky, which I thought was like, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. A pretty cool thing. I liked it. I liked it enough. It was fun. And hopefully the Blu-ray comes out here in the springtime or sometime after that, and perhaps on iTunes, and you all can watch it properly.
Speaking of Blu-rays, have y'all talked about the Savages coming to animation? And have you talked about why that is a wild thing? And I'm surprised that they chose that story.
I feel like they picked it up with the Celestial Toymaker, and then the next episode after that is the Gunfighters, which exist, and then the one after that is the Savages. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like they're sort of like picking somewhere and then like closing a gap. So look together.
I mean, that would make sense if they were using the same animation, because you obviously would still have the same models for the most part of the main characters, but they're not. So they went back to 2D again, which is my preferred one.
Yeah, but it's Savages is very much like Galaxy 4 was, basically. It's like the exact same, and maybe that's what they did. Maybe why they did it, because we have the artwork essentially.
Like I'm of the opinion all of it should be animated. Like if it doesn't exist, animate it. And
why the hell not?
But if it's, and I think at this point it seems like they're going to at least try to do that stuff. But it's like, why would you start with these ones that everybody doesn't like? And
you got to do it sometime.
I mean, do you want to end it? Do you want to end it with the ones?
I guess no. I mean,
likes,
you could end. Well, you got to if you're going in order, you got to end with the Space Pirates, obviously, which is one everybody likes.
Which is the one building up to it. That's what this whole animation project is all about.
Building up to. Yeah, I'm just going to be really mad if they just like decide not to do the Mythmakers, because that's like my favorite story that you can't see.
And that's the one right after Galaxy 4, and you're thinking, come on,
I know,
it's right there.
And we didn't do it. It's right there.
It's right there.
There's a whole Trojan War, so I'm assuming that's going to be like a pretty hard thing to try to animate.
Yeah, for sure. Because you'd have to do it some kind of justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm still excited to look at it. I'm excited to have it on my shelf. I really liked the Celestial Toymaker animated. I thought that was really cool.
I think it totally fits with what it's supposed to be.
And it made it perfect. Like that's a boring story to listen to. Yeah. And the one episode that exists is boring, but in animation I thought it was like, hey, this is fun. I'm happy that all of that exists and stuff. I just was sort of like, really, the Savages? The one that's like you could probably scrub from the entire archive and no one would really mind. Like,
there's a couple of those.
Hey, I don't know about that. There's interesting stuff going on in the Savages. Probably.
I want to know how they're going to get around the problematic parts of that story.
The title, for one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the title.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
Originally called the White Savages. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see when it comes out. I don't know. No North American date has been announced yet for that. Or indeed season 7, which of course is the one thing we're most looking forward to, I think, here this season. Kyle was being a big fan of Malcolm Hulk, of course.
They did finally announce the North, or at least US 25.
Yeah, it's February 25th.
February something.
It's coming out February 25th, season 25. So waiting to see the Savages and season 7 now show up, and indeed the War Games in color. 3 Blu-ray releases, waiting to see North American release dates. I
never thought I would get excited about physical releases of old Doctor Who again. I thought after the DVD range was done, we'd be done.
Here we are.
Oh, I love the Blu-ray so much.
Thanks to streaming sucking generally.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I think that once they realize, oh, this isn't actually good, we can't make money off of this after the first deluge of people.
Yeah. That sad people like this will buy things twice on just to watch it once, and
we are the saviors of all these executives.
Yeah, really are.
We are the dreamers of dreams.
Or suckers would be another way to put it.
Yeah. One last bit to mention, just because I'm the only one that saw Doctor Who Proms, was on December 24th on BBC Two. It was cool. It was a cool little thing. It was, of course, it was recorded back in July or something like that, but it was a proper TV production and hosted by Catherine Tate, and they had monsters running around and stuff like that, and it was a bunch of fun. It was cool. The usual. There was a little mini episode with the Doctor and Maestro about bad music and stuff like that. Anita Dobson was there. Mrs. Flood did a bit there as well. It was cool. Actually, my favorite bit was, and I'll tell you what my least favorite bit was, but my favorite bit was when they did Valet Dasa, I don't know what the title was, but the regeneration music for the 10th Doctor.
Right, yeah.
But the clips that they used were regeneration clips from all of the Doctors.
That's cool.
And it was cool. It was emotional, like watching all the Doctors regenerate and die before your eyes there with that music going on. And naturally, they sort of closed the concert with the Doctor Who theme, which is great. But then, they're still standing around. What's going? And then the music. Oh, there's always a twist at the end.
Oh, boo, boo. I thought it would be like Torchwood theme, and then what's his name just jumps out. I'm back, everybody.
There was always a twist at the end, and the go-go dancers came on. And the song still isn't as good, even with the full orchestra. So
it's terrible. It's just, let's just say it. It's bad.
Bad song. So
sorry, chat people who like this song. You are wrong.
I don't know if if the Proms will make its way onto a Blu-ray set at some point. But I saw that too, possibly through nefarious means. Thank you very much, BBC. But anyway. And one last thing, speaking of death, and the BBC, to our friend Toby Haydock's absent friends on
of death,
Radio 4 Extra on December 29th, 4:45 p.m., where he runs down in a good style, celebrates those that we lost in the sci-fi universe in 2024. So do listen to that, because that's coming out after this episode it goes out, and before our next one in the new year. So yeah, we won't be back until whatever the first Sunday in January is. This counts as our next week's episode, everyone, because it's so late in the week. So
I believe that would be the 6th of January.
Cool.
The 5th of January.
Oh, 5th of January. Yep, January 5th.
I was going to say, it's the 6th. What an auspicious date.
Well, I know.
Have a podcast.
January 5th. Thankfully, January 5th is when that happens. So there. That's. I think that's it for this whole episode, this whole calendar year of Radio Free Skaro. Everyone. Anybody have anything left to say? This is your time. This is your time, Kyle.
Doctor Who is good.
Doctor Who is good. We like Doctor Who.
Doctor Who is good.
Yeah.
I'll just plug stuff if that's okay.
Go for it.
Do it.
Yeah.
You can listen to Doctor Who: The Writers' Room on the 15th of every month. Eric Stadnick and I are knee deep in the Matt Smith years. Actually, we're about to wrap it up. We're starting Series 7. So, that's fun. I haven't watched Series 7 in a long time, and we just did a whole episode about both A Christmas Carol and Doctor Who Wardrobe. There was more to say about one than the other, let's say.
The great thing about that Doctor Who Wardrobe always gets me, because the last 5 minutes are great, and it always makes me forget about the previous 50 minutes, which I hated. And every year I go, oh, this is really good. I'm going to watch that again, and I suffer through it and go. Every year I do it.
Where the prepubescent girl or whoever, she's not quite motherly enough to pilot this. That's such a bad story.
Very odd. Anyway,
Christmas Carol still the undisputed champion as far as I'm concerned.
You can listen to that. We are also on our Patreon. We are adding a new tier where there's going to be a Discord. So if that's something you're at all interested in,
best of luck with that.
I'm going to join just to yell at you guys.
Yeah,
which I can't do otherwise. Yeah. Finally, I get the chance.
Something I get to do. Yeah.
Finally, you have your forum more, and it's tough for us to find our voice in this day and age.
It really is.
Having done a podcast for 18 years. Yeah.
And then my other podcast, which I do for Nerdist weekly, called Laser Focus, where we basically, which Steven has been on. Steven, much like I stepped in last minute, Steven stepped in last minute to talk about old.
You'll never guess what I talked about.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's old British sci-fi. Yeah,
old British sci-fi stuff. But yeah, you can find that anywhere you get both of those, anywhere you get podcasts. But Laser Focus is the one that I spend a lot of my time with nowadays, and we talk about comics, we talk about movies, we talk about all sorts of stuff, and it's just fun. So if you like the sound of my voice, you can go and get those on your podcast.
You're here, aren't you? We do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
thanks.
I like that show, Kyle. I mean, my knowledge of stuff isn't as expansive as yours, so I nip in here and there to listen to about stuff.
And that's kind of we talk about newer stuff,
Yeah.
like stuff that just finished. Like we talked about the Penguin, we talked about X-Men 97, stuff like that.
Right.
But then we also do talk about because I like old nerdy stuff more so than most. Like we have an episode about the Animorphs books, or like just nostalgic stuff from the 90s is kind of my bread and butter, or 80s and stuff. But but it's one topic per episode.
Yeah, I like it. The one you talked about, like the state of Marvel and DC, I thought was interesting. Just general stuff about the industry. That one I really liked as well. So
yeah, which I'm looking real forward to that Superman movie. After
there's that.
I'm looking forward to it more than I thought I would.
Yeah,
they
got you. They got you, Warren.
They got me.
You just play that John Williams music, and you'll just come running.
Yeah, that's basically true.
Yep.
He's no fool, that James Gunn.
Yeah, even if like they cast Jared Leto as Superman, but I don't like this. Oh my God, is that John Williams music?
No,
there's my money.
There's a line, then that would
There's
cross
levels.
it.
Right.
There's levels to it.
All right, Warren, you've got nothing to plug because this is you're the host of the show. Or you do?
No, not really.
Okay.
Just hire me in the new year, please.
Okay. Warren needs a job. Warren needs a job apparently Twitch, and help support the show at radiofreeskaro.com, patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. How about that? All right, folks, let's hope Chris is better for next week. For those of you who are patron supporters, though, there's no episode on Sunday. This sort of counts for it because it's coming on, I think, on the Friday. But all this coming week, last week of December into January, New Year's. If you want to hear our commentary for the Moon Base, you get it early for patron supporters.
Wow, that's a fun one,
right? It's coming out on the main feed later in the
I didn't mind it.
in the month.
The Piper, the Piper.
Colin, that's the one. That's the one. So that'll come out for patron supporters, but it'll be on the main feed in a few weeks' time, probably, or something, as we lead up to Gallifrey 1, which is going to be next. Are we going to see you there, Gallifrey 1? Kyle, are you going to be there in February? Or
TBD.
TBD, okay. It's not always a guarantee anymore, so
No.
I hope to see you. But if not, it was nice to see you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I was glad I could step in. I'm glad I was just sitting here drinking coffee, and I was like, you know what, I could talk about Doctor Who and drink coffee. So that's what I've done.
Why not?
That's true. Absolutely. All right, folks. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for those who listened to the live stream for tuning in. And until next time, I'm Steven in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Kyle in Los Angeles.
So long for now.